From translation. Net, New English Translation. This 258th day of the year. Today, we are reading passages Daniel 1-3. Daniel chapter 1, verses 1-21. In the 3rd year of King Jehoiakim of Judah, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. The Lord handed Judah over to him, and the king took some of the vessels from the temple of God and carried them to the land of Babylon. He put them in the treasury of his gods. The king ordered Ashpenaz, the head of his court officials, to bring some of the Israelites who were of royal and noble descent, young men who were healthy and handsome, well-versed in all the literature and languages of the Medes and Chaldeans, who were destined to serve in the king's palace. The king assigned them a daily ration of food and wine from the royal court. They were to be trained for 3 years, so that at the end of that time they could be stationed in the king's court. Now there were 4 young men from Judah among these: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The supervisor of the court officials renamed them. Daniel he called Belteshazzar, Hananiah he called Shadrach, Mishael he called Meshach, and Azariah he called Abednego. But Daniel made up his mind not to defile himself with the royal food or drink wine. So he asked the court official in charge of him and the chief of the eunuchs for permission not to defile himself. Now God has made Daniel loyal and cordial to these eunuchs, so he granted Daniel's request. But he said to Daniel, "I fear my lord the king, who has assigned you food and drink. What if he sees that you are worse off than the other young men of your age? Then I would be responsible for you." Daniel then said to the eunuch in charge of him, whom the chief of the eunuchs had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, "Please test your servants for 10 days. Give us vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who are eating the king's food. Then deal with your servants according to what you see." So he agreed to this request of theirs and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who had eaten the king's food. So the eunuch continued to withhold their choice food and wine, giving them vegetables instead. Now God granted these 4 young men wisdom and knowledge and proficiency in all areas of literature and science. Daniel, in particular, was gifted in understanding all visions and dreams. At the end of the time set for their training by the king, the chief of the eunuchs brought them before Nebuchadnezzar. When the king spoke with them, he found that none of them were a match for Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they began to serve in the king's court. In every matter of wisdom and insight that the king asked about, he found that they were 10 times better than the other experts and magicians in his entire kingdom. Daniel lived there until the 1st year of King Cyrus. Daniel chapter 2, verses 1-49. In the 2nd year of his reign, King Nebuchadnezzar had many dreams. His mind was driven out of control, and he had terrifying visions. The king commanded his magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and Chaldeans to explain to him his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. The king said to them, "I have had a dream that has caused me to be worried. I want to understand what it means." The Chaldeans replied to the king in Aramaic, "O king, live forever. Tell us the dream and we will disclose its meaning." The king replied to the Chaldeans, "I have decided that if you do not tell me the dream and its meaning, you will be executed. But if you do tell me the dream and its meaning, I will give you many rewards and honoring gifts. So tell me the dream and its meaning." They replied, "O king, tell us the dream and we will disclose its meaning." The Chaldeans again replied, "There is no man on earth who can disclose the king's dream, except for the gods who live among mortals. They are not associated with men." The king became angry and frustrated. He issued an order to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So the king issued an edict that the wise men were to be executed. He also sent word to Daniel and his friends that they were to be destroyed along with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel replied with tact and wisdom to Arioch, the king's officer. Arioch, king's officer, why is the king's edict so harsh? Daniel then disclosed to Arioch the king's secret. So Arioch quickly went to Daniel and said to him, I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can make the king understand his dream. Then Arioch introduced Daniel to the king and said to him, I have found a man from Judah who can tell the king the meaning of his dream. So the king said to Daniel, whose name was also Belteshazzar, Are you able to tell me about my dream and its meaning? Daniel replied, There was no one among the wise men, enchanters, magicians, or diviners who could reveal to the king the dream, except for me. I, Daniel, went to my home and told my friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah about the matter. I asked them to seek mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that Daniel and his friends might not die along with the other wise men of Babylon. Then the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision by night. So Daniel praised the God of heaven and said, Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and power belong to him. He controls the timing of all events. He removes rulers and promotes rulers. He gives wisdom to wise people and reveals the deepest secrets. He does this because he is the watchful guardian over humankind. He reveals to kings what will happen in the future. He guides them and gives them authority over large groups of people and animals. The revealer of mysteries has revealed to me what will happen in the future. This is the truth of my dream and the visions of my mind. To you, O God of my ancestors, I give thanks and praise, for you have given me wisdom and power. Now you have made known to me what we asked of you, for you have made known to us the king's dilemma. Then Daniel went to Arioch, who had been ordered to execute the wise men of Babylon. He went and said to him, Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Bring me before the king, and I will disclose the interpretation of the dream. So Arioch quickly brought Daniel before the king and said to him, I have found a man from Judah who can tell the king the meaning of his dream. The king said to Daniel, whose name was also Belteshazzar, Are you able to tell me about my dream and its meaning? Daniel replied, Not one of the wise men, enchanters, magicians, or diviners is able to reveal to the king the mystery about his dream. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the future. Your dream and the visions of your mind while you were sleeping relate to the following events. As for you, O king, while you were in your bed, your mind wandered to things that concern the future. The revealer of mysteries has made known to you what will take place. The mystery was revealed to me, not because I am more wise than any other living person, but so that I might make known the interpretation to the king, and that you might understand the thoughts of your mind. You, O king, were watching. Suddenly, there was a colossal statue, one of enormous size and of extraordinary brightness. It stood up right before you, and its appearance was frightening. The statue had a head of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze. Its legs were of iron, its feet were partly of iron and partly of clay. As you watched, a stone was cut from a mountain, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet, which were made of iron and clay, and crushed them. Then the iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold were all crushed. It became like chaff from the summer barley threshing floors. The wind carried them away without leaving behind anything. So the king said to Daniel, Surely the one true God, the revealer of mysteries, is truly worthy of respect. You, O king, are the King of kings, for the God of heaven has given you kingdom, power, strength, and glory. He has given into your hand all the kingdoms of the earth, and has made dark-haired women and men subjects to you. You were elevated to rule over all of them. After you, another kingdom will arise. It will be inferior to yours. Then a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over all the earth. There will be a fourth kingdom as strong as iron. Just like iron shatters and crushes all things, so will this kingdom shatter and crush all the others. You saw that the feet and toes were partly of pottery clay and partly of iron. This will mean that it will be a divided kingdom. But it will still have the strength of iron, for you saw that iron was mixed in with the clay. This means that the toes of the statue are partly of iron and partly of clay. Some of the kingdom will be strong and some will be fragile. The clay was mixed with iron, and that is exactly what you see. Like the toes of the statue were partially iron and partially clay. The noble part of the statue will be strong, and the fragile part will be fragile. In the days of those kings, the God of heaven will raise up a kingdom that will not be destroyed, and that will not be subjugated by any other people. It will crush and eliminate all of those kingdoms, but it will endure forever. This is exactly what you saw, a stone cut from a mountain, but not by human hands, that shattered the iron, bronze, clay, silver, and gold. The great God has made known to the king what will take place in the future. The dream is certain, and its interpretation is trustworthy. Then King Nebuchadnezzar bowed down toward Daniel and said, "Surely your God is the God of gods, the Lord of kings, and the revealer of hidden information. For you have been able to reveal this." The king said to Daniel, "No one else can solve this mystery except the one or two other men. But you and your friends have pulled it off. You are to be rewarded and your gifts are to be kept." Then the king elevated Daniel to high position, giving him many valuable gifts. He made him king over the whole province of Babylon, as well as chief of all the wise men of Babylon. Then at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. Daniel, however, remained at the royal court. Daniel chapter 3, verses 1 to 30. Nebuchadnezzar the king made a colossal statue, one that was 90 feet high and 9 feet wide. He erected it on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to summon the satraps, prefects, governors, counselors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the statue he had erected. So all the satraps, prefects, governors, counselors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other officials of the provinces gathered for the dedication of the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had erected. Then a herald cried out, "To you, O people, animals, and birds of every language, it is commanded, when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, and lyre, harp, and cymbals, you are to fall down and worship the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has erected. But whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace." So when all the people heard the sound of the horn, flute, zither, and lyre, harp, and cymbals, all the people, nations, and languages fell down and worshiped the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had erected. At this point, certain Chaldeans came forward and charged the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "Your Majesty, live forever. You have issued an edict, O king, that all the people should fall down and worship the golden statue when they hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, and lyre, harp, and cymbals. And whoever does not fall down and worship will be thrown into a blazing furnace. There are some Jews that you have appointed to manage the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men have ignored your edict, O king. They do not serve your gods, and they do not worship the golden statue that you have erected." Then Nebuchadnezzar, his face contorted with rage, said to them, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, is it true that you are not serving my gods, and that you are not bowing to the golden statue that I have erected? Now, if you are ready when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, and lyre, harp, and cymbals, fall down and worship the statue I have made. But if you do not worship, you will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace. Then what God will rescue you from my power?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did not respond. They did not give him even a word to answer. Their feet were steady on the ground. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to King Nebuchadnezzar, "We do not need to give you an answer on this matter. If our God, whom we are serving, is able to rescue us from the blazing furnace and from your hand, O king, he will certainly do so. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we are not serving your gods, and we do not worship the golden statue that you have erected." Then Nebuchadnezzar was lost for words. His face contorted with rage, and he was determined to execute Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He commanded the furnace to be heated up 7 times hotter than usual. Then he ordered some of the strongest soldiers in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the fiery furnace. But then the soldiers were killed by the flames of the furnace, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were bound and thrown into the fiery furnace. But these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell into the fiery furnace still bound. Then King Nebuchadnezzar himself was amazed to see how quickly the fire had overcome them. He exclaimed to his advisers, "Did we not throw 3 men into the fire?" They replied to the king, "Certainly, O king." He replied, "But I see 4 men loosed and walking around in the middle of the fire. They are unharmed, and the 4th man looks like a divine being." Then Nebuchadnezzar approached the door of the fiery furnace and said, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego emerged from the fire, unscathed, along with their coats, their pants, and their hats, and their other garments were not harmed. Not even a hair of their heads was singed, nor were their robes damaged. Not even the smell of fire was to be found on them. Nebuchadnezzar exclaimed, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and refused to obey my command. They were willing to die rather than serve or worship any other god besides their own God. I hereby decree that anyone from any of my kingdoms, peoples, or languages who blasphemes the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be executed and their home confiscated. For there is no other God who can deliver in this way." Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were promoted to even higher positions in the province of Babylon.